1 year before Victor Wembanyama entered the NBA draft, he gave his thoughts on Scoot Henderson, saying, "He's a really great player. If I was never born, I think he would deserve the first spot." For most players, this would be a crazy comment, but it wasn't. It was a fact. In the 2023 draft class, there was Wemby and then everyone else.
We're labeling like this unicorn thing. Everybody's been a unicorn over the last few years, but he's more like an alien.
So that's it, right? This video about the 2023 draft class should just be about Wemby, right? In my opinion, after doing a month's worth of research, it's actually one of the deepest drafts in recent memories. Okay, don't believe me? How about this? The 12th pick started every game in the NBA Finals. The 13th pick was compared to Reggie Miller. The 45th pick dropped 44 points in a game. And lastly, the 52nd pick was so good that the Damian Lillard trade almost didn't go through. So I dug up all the players' backstories, how their first season went, and what we expect from them in the future, and even handed out what I'm calling the All-NBA Rookie Awards. But I need to know, is this level of success sustainable for them? And what's next for these young players? Starting off with
the first pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Victor Wembanyama from Nanterre, France.
If you're watching this video, you've probably known about Victor Wembanyama since he was in high school, and shoot, maybe even before that. You may have heard of him when Draft Express literally made a prospect video for him at 14 years old, or when he cooked Rudy Gobert one-on-one, or when all of the draft experts were talking about the next big star far away in France. This 7'4" guy who could shoot threes, cross you up, and dunk on you. He was only 17 years old, playing in the French Professional League. And still, he averaged 22 points, 10 boards, and 3 blocks. He was a cultural icon before he even stepped foot in the NBA. Fans carved pictures of him in their hair. They painted murals of him. Even Britney Spears wanted to meet him. Until she, At this point, we all know the hype is real. Look at the stat line from his rookie year. 21 points, 10.6 rebounds, 3.9 assists, 3.6 blocks, all of this shooting 46.5% from the field. Most players don't average these numbers in their entire career. He dropped 33 points on Embiid.
From the Sixers already, Wembanyama.
He had 10 blocks in one game.
There's a block for Wemby. No.
He destroyed Giannis. And he hit shots like this.
Goes down and puts it down.
I mean, just look at a list of his accomplishments. I'm seeing this for like the 80th time and it's still impressing me. People forget though that Chet led in Rookie of the Year voting to start the season. If you look at Victor's numbers during the first 2 or 3 months, they were good but not transcendent. He got baited into some bad shots, struggled to hit threes, and his conditioning lagged behind. But then the Spurs made 2 monumental changes. For starters, they moved him to center, allowing him to roam around the rim and protect the basket. In games where he played the center position, the team was projected for 40 wins, way over the 22 that they actually won. Just take a look at how good they were defensively when he played center. Secondly, they turned to Trey Jones at the 1 after experimenting with Jeremy Sohan. It made a huge difference having a semi-competent point guard who could direct the offense. They were plus 139 in the 1,288 minutes that Jones and Wemby played together. That's a winning basketball team. Also, quick side note, all of our advanced numbers came from NBA.com's Second Spectrum stats or Cleaning the Glass unless otherwise noted. Now, back to it. There are 3 things that I really love about Wemby's game. 1, his defense. He smothers opponents at the rim, switches on to guards, and seems to pop out of nowhere to block shots. He was 7th in defensive estimated plus minus according to dunks and threes, above Draymond, Bam, and Rudy Gobert. He ranks as the betting favorite by far to win the Defensive Player of the Year in 2025. The second thing I love about Wemby is his handle. He can dance around guys and create his own shot in a way that no other big man in the NBA can. The only player that I can think of is Kevin Durant, except Wemby is 5 inches taller. Lastly, he covers so much ground. He knows how to contort and control his body in weird ways, even when he's going against stronger guys. He eats up space with his arms and legs. Even when you think you've stopped him feet from the rim, he finds a way to snake around the defender and score.
Goes down and puts it down.
Now, the shooting. When he gets hot, he's one of the best shooters on the floor. His ability to shoot off the bounce is insane. I mean, the dude literally made 46% on step backs, and 37.5% on pull-up threes. But I think he settled too often, passing up opportunities to attack the rim or swing the ball. He made only 32.5% of his threes, and there were too many stretches where he shot 1 for 5 or 2 for 7. He converted just 31% on catch and shoot attempts. I mean, that's coming though. As the Spurs get better players around him, he'll only get more open looks. He had a usage rate of above 30%, the highest of any rookie in 28 years. Okay, here's the bottom line. Wemby isn't just one of the best players of this draft class, he's one of the best players in the world. I mean, with his combination of scoring and defense, I don't think it's crazy to see him evolve into an all-NBA player in his second year.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm just a human, but am I?
The Spurs added Chris Paul in the 2024 offseason, quite literally the perfect backcourt partner for Wemby. Even at 39 years old, Paul is known for elevating young players' games. Blake Griffin, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Devin Booker. We saw how good Wemby was with Trey Jones. Now imagine him with the point guard. It's going to be fun watching them run the pick and roll this year, and Wemby throwing down some crazy alley-oops. Man, I just can't wait. And for that, our first award. Wemby's our unanimous MVP in the 2023 draft class.
The Charlotte Hornets select Brandon Miller from the University of Alabama.
Let's not forget, Hornets fans hated this pick.
Okay, this is it. This is our breakthrough, you know? We draft Brandon Miller.
Some were angry that the Hornets didn't select Scoot Henderson, and others, well, just couldn't get excited about Brandon Miller. He was kinda boring, not particularly flashy, and he didn't play at a huge basketball school. He had some off-the-court issues too. During his freshman season at Alabama, Miller was present at the scene of a fatal shooting, and police said that the gun was retrieved from Miller's car. Miller said that he did not touch the gun and had no knowledge of any attempt to use the weapon, according to his attorney. And Miller was never charged, but it did cloud his season and pre-draft process.
I never lose sight of the fact family has lost one of their loved ones that night.
Still, Miller played out the rest of the year for Alabama, averaging 19 points and posting some huge games, including a 41-point outing against South Carolina amidst the controversy. He projected as a smooth 3-level scorer who could handle the rock and create his own shot at 6'7". Who does that remind you of? Maybe Paul George?
I actually don't think LeBron is, the go to basketball. I think my go to basketball is Paul George. I always grew up watching him, so it's never just LeBron.
And Brandon Miller knew that he was good enough. He was even trash talking Michael Jordan during his workout with the Hornets.
You did some big trash talking to the GOAT.
He started
Michael
it.
Jordan.
He started it.
He started it.
Still, Brandon Miller's rookie year was quiet. He just kind of flew under the radar for a terrible Hornets team. And that's a shame. He probably had one of the best seasons in this class outside of Wemby. From day one, Miller was an NBA-ready three-point shooter, making 37% on nearly 7 tries per game. He mostly took catch-and-shoot jumpers to start the year, but as the season went on and players got injured, he started getting more on-ball reps. And that's where he really shined. He made 43% on 5 pull-up jumpers per game, one of the top marks among rookies. And watch his tape, and it's easy to mistake him for a vet. He's rarely sped up, smooth into his pull-up, and he knows how to pick his spots. Miller really came into his own toward the end of the season. After February 1st, he averaged 20 points per game, shot 45% from the field, and 37% from 3. I mean, am I crazy to think that those are borderline all-star numbers? He even got better at finishing at the rim, one of his glaring holes initially, becoming an above-average wing finisher by year's end. That's why it's so easy to see a 3-level scorer in Miller. The catch-and-shoot jumpers are there, the ability to create his own shot off the dribble is there, and the finishing's getting better. Simply adding weight might elevate him to the all-star conversation. Yes, in his second season. Personally, outside of Wemby, I'm highest on Miller in this draft. And I could even argue that Miller has less red flags than Wemby if we're counting injury risk. And I believe Miller could develop into a two-way star with very few holes in his game. He's the perfect fit next to LaMelo, a secondary ball handler who can play off Melo's playmaking and clean up for him defensively. But to be honest, Brandon Miller's just kind of the perfect piece for any team.
The Portland Trail Blazers select Scoot Henderson from Marietta, Georgia, and the NBA G League's Team Ignite.
When Scoot arrived in the NBA, he was seen as the next great NBA guard. Experts compared him to Russell Westbrook, John Morant, and Derrick Rose. At 17 years old, he had the strength of an NBA player, explosiveness that allowed him to trampoline over bigger defenders, and a reported 6'9" wingspan that seems too long for a 6'2" guard. Shoot, he even played against professionals in the G League at 17. Yes, 17. That not only made him the youngest player in the G League, it made him the youngest professional player in the country. In his second year with the G League Ignite, he upped his stats to 18 points and 7 assists per game, even dropping 28 and 9 on Wemby in a showcase game.
That's not fair. I like this matchup. Scoot Henderson, one-on-one. Yeah!
That's why it's easy to feel disappointed when you look at his raw numbers in his rookie season. 14 points, 38.5% from the field, 32.5% from 3, 3.4 turnovers, and no all-rookie spot. A lot of people think Scoot is already a bust. Sure, it's no lie that Scoot got off to a rough start. He simply looks sped up, struggling to adjust to NBA pace and physicality after so many years of being the most athletic dude on the floor. Then, 5 games into his Blazers career, he injured his ankle and missed nearly 3 weeks. I mean, that's light years for a young NBA point guard, which is arguably the toughest position to adjust to. In his first 10 games back from injury, he averaged 11 points, shot 37% from the field, and 25% from 3. He got sucked into way too many pull-ups, and when he did get to the rim, he couldn't finish. That was his calling card during the draft, but he shot just 46% around the basket on the season, landing in the 6th percentile among guards and just 2 spots above a 5'8" point guard, Jacob Gilyard. That means he ranked at the bottom of the league in finishing, the 6th lowest group among guards. He never truly broke out, but he clearly improved as the season progressed. If you look post All-Star break, he averaged 17 points and 7 assists, shooting 40% from the floor and 35% from 3. He also flashed some impressive passing skills, averaging a 30% assist percentage, 70th percentile among guards. I was listening to the Game Theory podcast a few weeks ago, and want to give the hosts Sam Vecini and Brian Simon some credit. They looked at other teenage ball handlers who were picked highly like Scoot. Nearly all of them struggled. The point guard position is hard for young guys. Take De'Aaron Fox for example. As a rookie, he averaged 12 points, shot 41% from the field, and 31% from 3. I'm not saying that he's De'Aaron Fox, I'm just saying that everyone needs to relax. He's a legit NBA passer now, and his finishing will get better as he adjusts to NBA pace. The athleticism hasn't gone anywhere. Scoot will be fine. I trust it, and you should too.
No, there's never been moments in this season where I was down on myself.
The Houston Rockets select Amen Thompson from Oakland, California, and overtime elite.
Amen Thompson has one of the most electrifying skill sets that we've seen come into the league. I mean, he's a menace on defense.
Spin move, rises up, how about the step by Thompson? Bobo got it back, airmailed it, Young put it up.
He sees things that normal humans, normal NBA players don't see.
Love being back home. Inside.
And he's a blazing fast pogo stick who can bang on you at any moment.
Dan played pocket pass.
But I wasn't always sure how Amen would adjust to the NBA. He didn't go to college or play overseas. He attended Overtime Elite, a new development league that pays, educates, and trains high-level teams trying to make the next level. Most people didn't get to see him compete against top-tier guys. Still, Amen Thompson is a beautiful mystery box with rare talents that haven't really been put together before. The Ringer compared him to a tall John Morant and a beanpole Zion Williamson. Count me in. He got off to a slow start, but as the year went on, he got more comfortable. After Alperen Şengün got injured late in the season, the Rockets inserted Amen into the starting lineup as a small ball 5, wreaking havoc as a cutter, slasher, and rebounder. It worked, in part because he was flanked by all-plus shooters. He helped propel the Rockets to an 11-game win streak in March that got them back in the playoff hunt. Despite his shooting concerns, he proved that he could contribute to winning basketball. He was like a pinball, bouncing everywhere all the time, averaging 15 points, 9 boards, and 1 steal, while shooting 61% from the field. He was second among rookies in attempts around the rim, with nearly 4.5 per game in the restricted area, where he shot 68%. He did the small things too, competed on defense, set great screens, and went flying for boards. Offensive rebounding 10% of his team's misses. Best of all wings in the NBA. In the final game of the season, he dropped his first career triple-double, plus 3 steals and 3 blocks. He's simply put a jack of all trades, but we've been missing something. Amen can't shoot. I mean, really can't shoot. And it's unclear if he'll ever be able to. He shot 14% on the season and only made 8 threes all year. Yeah, so he might be dealing with the Ben Simmons thing here. It's not clear if the 3-point shooting will ever come. If it does, we may be looking at a transcendent player, and I don't say that lightly. But what if he can shoot like Giannis? Enough to keep the defense semi-honest with a little mid-range shooting game to boot. How good can he be? And if it doesn't, he's still a blend of speed, jumping, effort, rebounding, passing, and lock down your best player defense. That, to be honest, has few comparisons. Well, maybe one comparison.
The Detroit Pistons select Ausar Thompson from Oakland, California, an overtime elite.
Wait, another one? Yeah, for the first time ever, two brothers were drafted in the top 5 since the NBA-ABA merger. But these aren't just brothers. They're identical twins. I mean, identical. Before the draft, they literally hadn't spent more than 2 days apart in their entire life.
But if I see something I don't like, I'm gonna let them know. Like, fix this so when I play you, it's not a 30-point win, it's 8.
Ausar also played at Overtime Elite, where he similarly filled up the stat sheet, averaging 16 points, 6 assists, 7 rebounds, and get this, nearly 2.4 steals and 1 block. Even in high school, he flashed potential as an all-NBA caliber defender at 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan. But he also lacked a men's top shelf athleticism. But Ausar said he didn't know where he'd go in the draft.
My heart was beating more for him. When it was my turn, I didn't know where I was gonna go, like until Adam Silver said it, until I saw the cameras come to the table.
Despite already having multiple non-shooters, the Pistons bought into Ausar's do-it-all talent, and his potential to be one of the league's best defenders next to a dynamic scorer like Cade. And though Amen went earlier, Ausar actually popped off sooner. He was the 4th player ever to block 5 shots in his career debut. Over the first 2 months of the season, he averaged 11 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. I think of Ausar Thompson like Spider-Man. He just seems to be able to shoot everywhere, stealing the ball, blocking shots, somehow slithering his way into the lane, snatching an offensive rebound, and laying it back up. He vacuumed up nearly 8% of offensive rebounding opportunities, which is 97th percentile. His feel for the game as a rookie was exceptional, and it wasn't odd to see him dashing to the rim for a cut even when they left him wide open to shoot. And he might just be the best defender in this class. He's unbelievably agile. Even when he doesn't get beat, he can shoot back into position like someone pressed fast forward, and everyone else is moving in slow motion. But midway through the season, he got stuck in the doghouse and saw his playing time cut. Now seems like a good time to talk about the glaring hole in Ausar's game. And I think you can guess it. The twin, Ausar can't shoot either. He made 19% of his threes and 60% of his free throws. He only made 23% of his looks on wide open corner threes, second to worst of all wings in the NBA. While the Rockets have a plethora of shooters and scorers to surround Amen with, the Pistons don't. Let's take a look at the projected starting lineup according to ESPN. Cade, Jaden Ivey, Ausar, Tobias Harris, and Jalen Duran. With the exception of Tobias, the others are underwhelming shooters, if they shoot at all. Can the Pistons really play 4 below average 3-point shooters together? I don't think so. It's sad to think that we might see more years like 2023, where Ausar's play pops off your screen, only to disappear because, well, he can't shoot.
The Orlando Magic select Anthony Black from the University of Arkansas.
Look at Anthony Black's basic stats, and you would think he underwhelmed this year. 4.6 points, 2 rebounds, 1.2 assists. That's despite playing 69 games. More than a lot of dudes on this list. But let's stop right here. The idea that he was playing, that's not just a participation trophy. The Magic were a playoff team with a lot of guard options. If they didn't want to play Anthony Black, they didn't have to. That's how well he fit and understood his role. He came into the league advertised as a big long point guard after his year at Arkansas, but in the NBA, he mostly played off the ball. He had a usage rate of 12.1%, one of the lowest rates in the entire NBA. He never quite popped off your screen. Instead, he did the dirty work. Screens, cutting, making the right pass, always making the right pass. And of course, the dude was a dog on defense. Even as a rookie, he was a positive defender, showing up the skills that made him such a good high school wide receiver. He smothered offensive players with his 6'7" length, reaching from nowhere to contest shots. Shooting was a big question mark coming into the NBA, after only making 30% of his attempts at Arkansas. But he surprised many by hitting 39% on 1.5 threes per game, and 42% on corner threes, an important marker for off-ball guards. Black could be an elite defender. The question is, can the offense catch up? After mostly playing the 2 last year, he'll need to assume more ball handling duties, lift his assist numbers, and prove the Magic can trust him running the offense. Now a quick story time. A few years ago, I was hooping at my regular gym, when a 6'7" high school dude with floppy black hair walked in. Yes, it was Anthony Black. Me and my buddies played a few times a week and knew each other really well. But even at 17 years old, as skinny as a rail, Anthony Black was in a different universe. All I remember during the game is dunk after dunk after dunk, alley-oops, even a windmill. He might even have tried a 360 windmill, I can't totally remember. It was my welcome to the NBA moment. Here's a dude known for his defense, who was one of the least used offensive players on an okay offensive team, who had 25 dunks all season. But when I met him when he was in high school, he was dunking on dudes all day. So yeah, it's a different world out there in the NBA.
The Indiana Pacers select Bilal Coulibaly from Courbevoie, France.
This pick sent off many shockwaves in the NBA. Let me put it into context. To start the 2023 season, Coulibaly couldn't even earn minutes in France's first division. He was playing on the U21 team and nowhere near the lottery. And then Coulibaly was called up mid-season by Metropolitan 92, which, if you remember, was Wemby's team. As scouts darted overseas to catch a glimpse of Wemby, their attention turned to the smooth-moving, rail-thin teenager playing beside him. Still, no one knew what to expect when Coulibaly declared for the draft. He had literally only logged half a season of legit games, where he was merely a role player. But he was 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan, moved like a guard, and flashed a pretty shooting form. The Ringer wrote, Coulibaly is a mystery box combining ideal height, length, and raw athletic tools. After trading away Bradley Beal, Coulibaly fit the Wizards' timeline perfectly. A player who would need a year, if not years, to grow into himself. He might spend time in the G League and get garbage reps here and there. Instead, he ended up playing 1,715 minutes on the season, 9th of all rookies. Forget waiting, Coulibaly took off. The three-pointer was further along than expected. He still had a ways to go on defense, but it wasn't hard to see a defensive shapeshifter who could stick to anyone on the court, all the way from point guards to centers.
But defensively, he can guard on the ball, guard off the ball. We see him as a guy that can switch and be versatile, and he embraces that.
By the end of November, he was averaging 8 points, shooting 53% from the field and 47% from three. He hit open jumpers, attacked closeouts, and showed flashes of his defensive ceiling. He looked like a legit rotation piece. Now, but issues arose as the season progressed. His 3-point percentage dropped. He struggled to create his own shot. He only had a 13.7% usage rate, according to Cleaning the Glass, 29th percentile among guards. It also makes me wonder which Coulibaly is real. He moves so well at his height, it's hard not to get excited, even though there were some adjustments to the NBA and living in America.
Like, the main thing is like, I can't go anywhere because I don't have my driving license. So yeah, I was taking the subway in France. That was easier. Here you can't do that. So yeah, but my team is here. Whenever I need a ride or something, they're gonna come help me. So yeah.
He might never evolve into an offensive wizard, pun intended, but I do believe that he can be a plus NBA defender with some decent shooting seasons and the ability to attack closeouts. Do I hear a skinnier OG Anunoby? Or maybe we have no clue because this dude's 20. Barely played high-level basketball and still figuring out his game.
The Washington Wizards select Jarris Walker from the University of Houston.
It's crazy to think that the Indiana Pacers made the conference finals this year. It's even crazier to think that their top 10 pick from the 2023 draft played no role in their run. And remember, Walker wasn't even supposed to be a Pacer. He landed in Indiana as part of the massive 3-team trade. You know, the one that sent Bradley Beal to Phoenix and Chris Paul and a heap of first-round picks to Washington. The Wizards and Pacers swapped their lottery picks in the deal, with Bilal Coulibaly hitting to DC and Walker to Indy. Plus a bunch of second-rounders and cash got thrown in too. Walker logged 33 games in the regular season and just 31 minutes in the playoffs. Because of how little he played, you'll find varying views of Walker. Walker came into the draft as one of the lesser-known lottery picks. Despite being a 5-star recruit, he chose Houston, a college basketball powerhouse with a well-respected coach, but not necessarily known for pumping out NBA prospects. As Houston dominated to a 33-4 record, Walker started nearly every game, their only underclassman to start. He thrived as a versatile forward, a Derrick Henry-like wrecking ball who plowed to the rim, a smooth shooter who nailed 35% of his threes, and a skilled playmaker who could put the ball on the floor and find the open man. He was seen as a perfect modern-day NBA fit, with an NBA body from day one, quick enough to play the 4, strong enough at 250 pounds, and long enough with a 7'3" wingspan to play the small ball 5. He became the first Houston player selected in the top 10 since, well, Hakeem Olajuwon in 1984.
What does that mean to you?
I mean, it means a ton. I mean, I'm just blessed and fortunate to be in the situation.
But Walker walked into a complete logjam in Indiana. The team already had Miles Turner and Jalen Smith, and signed Obi Toppin. They traded mid-season for Pascal Siakam. That left little playing time for Walker. Still, he flashed some really interesting skills. Watch his summer league games and you'll see a dude who can score at multiple levels, bodying dudes, crossing them up, and pulling up for middies. His jump shot looks clean, and he shot 38% in the G League on 7 attempts. He also showed some legit ball handling and passing for a guy his size. But the bad, he really struggled to finish. Needs to adjust to NBA pace, carve out a role, and improve his defense. The place where people saw real potential in his game. It's easy to get excited about Jarace Walker, because his player profile is still so versatile. But for some reason, I just worry about his role. Like, what's his position? Is the shooting real? Can he handle the rock at the NBA level? With most of the Pacers team returning, there aren't a whole lot of minutes for Walker. We'll have to wait and see if he can earn them. And if he does, what he can do with them.
The Utah Jazz select Taylor Hendricks from UCF.
As a skinny tweener with a suspect jump shot, Taylor Hendricks seemed primed to spend a few years in college. Scouts already knew that he could take over games as a defender, a rare blend of quickness and size that allowed him to stick to speedy guards on ball and swat away shots at the rim off ball. Hendricks told Sports Illustrated that he designed his game after Anthony Davis, and it showed, averaging 0.9 steals and 1.7 blocks as a freshman at UCF. And he shined for UCF early on. His name skyrocketed up draft boards. It wasn't just the defense. After shooting 34% from 3 in high school, he made nearly 50% in his last 11 games. Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer wrote, "How many big, mobile, rim-protecting wings are there in the NBA who are also capable of shooting 40% from 3? Like 3? Is that even a bit generous?" The Jazz took him at 9, slotting him next to the shot-blocking menace Walker Kessler, giving them potentially the scariest defensive frontcourt in the NBA. Hendricks got off to a slow start after he injured his hamstring during the pre-draft process. He missed Summer League and spent weeks in the G League. Even for a late-blooming player, it was a disappointment. I mean, the Jazz weren't a playoff team, so why couldn't their top 10 pick earn minutes? That changed after the trade deadline, when the Jazz traded away some key pieces, and those minutes went to Hendricks. After the All-Star break, he averaged 26 minutes, 9 points, 6 boards, and shot 40% from 3. Those are pretty good numbers, especially when you consider he converted 70% of his shots at the rim too. He was often overtasked with covering the other team's best player, Paolo Banchero, Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, but he also showed flashes, holding Luka to 39% from the field and Victor to 31% and 6 turnovers.
Durant's working against the rookie, drive blocked.
Most importantly, he competed.
I think Taylor competes every single night. Like, that's the part for me that gives me a lot of hope for him, because I know that when he goes in the game, he's going to give maximum effort. He makes energy plays.
But he'll need to prove he can do more than shoot. Most of his attempts came on wide open catch and shoot threes from the corner. Only 10% of his shots were pull-ups. Can he add some offensive wiggle? Can he prove he can attack hard closeouts? If his offensive game never develops, can he still be a plus NBA rotation player? The Jazz are still tanking, and there will be more than enough minutes to earn, allowing him to work through the growing pains and showcase what he can provide. Unfortunately, in his second season, he suffered a major leg injury, so I'm wishing him a speedy recovery.
The Dallas Mavericks select Cason Wallace from the University of Kentucky.
By now, the secret's out on Calipari-led Kentucky guards. Hint, they adjust to the NBA very well, regardless of how much they play at Kentucky. And here's the scarier thing, they get better. Cason Wallace came into the NBA after 1 year at Kentucky, where he started as the lead guard, averaging 12 points, 4 assists, shooting nearly 35% from 3. But he didn't fit the mold of a flashy Kentucky guard or a normal lottery pick. He wasn't an elite scorer, and he didn't pop off the page with athleticism. He was only 6'3". But the Thunder saw something else, which is why they made the trade for him from the Mavericks. They saw a dogged defender with a 6'8" wingspan, quick release jumper, and an NBA-ready IQ. They just needed him to do what the Thunder do: dart around the court, cut to the basket, and hound on defense. And maybe, just maybe, he had another untapped level like so many other Kentucky guards. Wallace did just that. The most telling stat is the most simple. He played 82 games. What other rookies did that? One, his teammate Chet. That stat, 82 games, can't be overlooked. He did it on the #1 seeded Western Conference team. While so many rookies hit a wall or found themselves stuck in the doghouse, Wallace didn't. He was solid, steady, and unflappable. He was a great defender from day one, covering Kyrie Irving in the playoffs and holding him to 8 of 23 from the field. CJ McCollum even tried to ISO him at the end of Wallace's first playoff game, and that didn't go too well.
McCollum dribbles it off of his foot. Nothing doing. Leans in. McCollum the three. Too strong. And this one.
He nailed nearly 42% from 3 on 3 attempts per game, second best of all rookies who played over 41 games. Even at the rim, he converted 72% of his buckets. Amazing for a 6'3" player. Yes, it was on a low usage role, but again, that's what the Thunder needed. Let me add, the Thunder do an amazing job of picking for culture. Players who fit the team's personality. There's a reason why they are the youngest #1 seed of all time. Everyone has bought into the plan and it shows. There might not be a better example than Wallace. And for that, we've awarded Cason Wallace the Unsung Hero Award. I will throw in a little wrinkle though. The Thunder did add Alex Caruso this offseason. I don't think it will axe Wallace's minutes, but I do wonder if they'll ask him to alter his game. They now have 3 players with pretty duplicative skill sets. Caruso, Wallace, and Lou Dort. I wonder if they'll want him to provide something different, or if they have concerns about playing multiple undersized 2 guards. I think we'll see Wallace playing more on the ball with the second unit, and I wonder if we'll see him take on more scoring and playmaking duties. That's the next step for him, but already, he's a perfect role player who will stick in the league for years to come. I don't know if I can say the same about the next pick.
The Orlando Magic select Jet Howard from the University of Michigan.
The Magic desperately needed shooting, so they went and got Howard, the son of an NBA All-Star, Juwan Howard, who could flat out shoot the rock. Howard attended the University of Michigan, where he actually played for his father/head coach, Juwan. Despite having some elite talent, the team was underwhelming at 18 and 16. Howard put up 14 points per game on not great splits, 41% from the field and 37% from 3. But Howard said an ankle injury really hampered him, causing him to play at 50% for part of the season. Still, scouts lauded him as a smart, lights-out shooter with legit NBA size at 6'8" and playmaking upside. The Ringer compared him to Desmond Bane. Even if other players were ranked higher pre-draft, he still made sense on the Magic, which, like we said, desperately needed shooting. But they weren't desperate enough to play Jet Howard. He logged only 18 games this year and never played more than 7 minutes. To be honest, it was concerning that he couldn't earn more minutes, especially on a team ranked 29th in 3-point attempts and 24th in 3-point percentage. Instead, he spent most of his season in the G League, where he averaged 19 points and shot 38% from 3 at more than 9 attempts. He made nearly 47% of catch and shoot threes, which is best among players who took 100 shots in the G League. There's even more optimism after his summer league performance, where he played in 3 games, putting up 19 points, 3 assists, and shooting 48% from 3. Playing time is not given on a team that brought back Jalen Suggs, re-signed Gary Harris, and paid KCP. But if Howard shows that he can spread the floor for a Magic team that needs it, without getting torched on defense, he'll have a role. That's just a big if at this point, and Howard knows that. When asked about his main focus this offseason, he said,
"Defense. That's it. Defense and making open shots, pretty much that's it."
The Oklahoma City Thunder select Derek Lively II from Duke University.
The Philly native was actually the #1 prospect in his high school class. A 7'1" center who could move, shoot, and most of all, projected to become a defensive menace. He did this all while dealing with unimaginable home tragedies. When he was 7 years old, Lively's father, Derek, overdosed and passed away. When he was 10, his mom, Kathy Drysdale, was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Still, she never ever left her son's side. Herself being a former player at Penn State, she served as his childhood coach.
I ain't gonna cry, but I'm shaking, Ma.
I love you, Ma. I love you, baby. I love you, Ma.
Lively attended Duke, where he struggled to live up to the hype. He averaged only 5 points and offensively rarely did anything but dunk wide open shots. After slowly working back from a calf injury, he morphed into the player we all know, posting monster defensive games. I mean, just watch his 8-block, 14 rebound performance against rival UNC.
Ended by Nance, goes by him, and Lively the follow.
The Mavs saw him as a perfect lob threat to pair with Luka after whiffing on Christian Wood and Kristaps Porzingis. which is why the Mavs traded their pick in Cason Wallace and Davis Bertans for the center. But still, for a win-now team, it was interesting trading a 19-year-old who struggled at the college level and still needed time to develop. Well, then he instantly stepped into a starting role, thriving as an athletic rim-running pick-and-roll partner next to Luka and Kyrie. He was great in the short roll, able to make quick decisions when he got the ball, and willing to find his teammates. He forced defenses to think twice before they doubled Luka. Most of all, he'd never tried to do much. It's hard to imagine a 19-year-old so seamlessly entering the NBA. He made 80% of his attempts at the rim and notched an effective field goal percentage of 74.4%. That ranked 99th percentile among bigs. But that was the regular season. The playoffs. They have a habit of playing inexperienced people off the floor. But Lively didn't go anywhere. Instead, he set records. Even after the Mavs traded for center Daniel Gafford, Lively averaged 8 points and 7 rebounds during the team's stampede to the finals. He shot 100% from the floor. Yes, 100% in 4 games against Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert and the T-Wolves. He was the youngest player ever to log 20 minutes or more in the NBA Finals. He recorded a plus 98 plus minus across the playoffs according to StatMuse, which is the second best by a rookie ever, only behind Manu Ginobili. So yeah, Lively fit in just fine. And he made this run during one of the darkest moments of his life. Remember when we talked about his mom, his rock, his coach, his roommate, literally. Derek Lively lived with his mom during his rookie year.
Man, I live with my mom. You know, just being able to have home-cooked meals, being able to have somebody to talk to no matter what time of day it is, no matter what time of night it is. Go back. Just being able to know that I got my mom there, you know.
But Kathy Drysdale died in April due to Hodgkin's lymphoma after an 11-year battle, right before the playoffs started.
You know, that's a part of me left me. You know, I'm not able to be myself because I have my mom with me or my dad with me. But it makes me just want to fight that much harder.
After hitting his first NBA three-pointer in the finals, which I actually saw in person, who did he credit? His mom.
It's for her. She helped me make it. She gonna help me make a lot more. She helped me make it the free throw line. She helped me make reads.
And Derek Lively knows how to shoot. The Mavs just didn't have him taking jumpers this year. He's often compared to a prime Tyson Chandler, and that would be great, but am I crazy to think he could be more? I can see him developing a shot, sort of like Brook Lopez. And if he shoots, Derek Lively's gonna be an all-star, mark my words. And for his role on this NBA Finals team, we've awarded Derek Lively the most impactful award.
The Toronto Raptors select Grady Dick from the University of Kansas.
Okay, sorry, but we need to talk about Grady's draft day suit. Victor Wembanyama was absolutely the most discussed player at the 2023 draft, but let's be straight, Grady's suit was not far behind. I mean, there was this meme, and this meme. And he even inspired Zach Lowe to hop on the hype train.
Yes. We got Zach Dick in the building, looking sharp. What's up? Look at that. Look at this. This one's...
And here's Grady explaining just exactly what he had going on.
Just the story behind it. So I'm from Kansas. Dorothy from Kansas, Wizard of Oz. So she got her little red slippers, and I got the red top. Yeah, we got the new logo, GD logo, red bottoms. Get them.
Honestly, I'm gonna have to give his fit an A-. You gotta respect a man who literally put his legacy on the line for a bedazzled red suit that's so red it kinda hurts the eyes. And oh yeah, let me just throw a turtleneck in there for fun too. It's gotta go down as one of the most memorable draft fits of all time. Him and the whole 2003 draft class. That's why we've awarded Grady the Best Draft Day Style Award. Okay, back to the video. I guess we also can't ignore the second part of his name.
That's 31 assists on 3 turnovers. Dick couldn't finish.
And can't ignore this jersey swap either.
Yo, guys, jersey swap with their boys. That's my friend.
Okay, right, this is supposed to be a basketball video. So despite the way he might look in that suit, Grady can really shoot. Arguably the best shooter in the draft. After 1 year at Kansas, he averaged 14 points and shot 40% from 3. The Ringer literally compared him to Reggie Miller. The thing is though, he really couldn't shoot to start the year. In his first 19 games of the season, he averaged 3 points and shot 25% from 3. That's when he took a quote-unquote mid-season training camp just to get his body, mind, and game right. He moved down to the G League and worked extensively with assistant coaches. And then, well, he settled in. When he returned to the NBA, he simply saw the ball go in. By the end of the year, he wasn't getting pity minutes on a bad team, he was an integral piece. Grady credited his vets Gary Temple and Otto Porter. He told TSN, "Those guys are huge mentors to me right now. I can't tell you the age gap between us. I can probably be their son. In his last 12 games, he averaged 30 minutes, 15 points, and shot 38% from 3 on 6 attempts. He nailed 46% of his threes off screens, a really tough shot, and made 41% on catch and shoot attempts, a number that I expect to rise. Some are even calling him the next great movement shooter. Despite the suit and the rough start, he looks like a player the Raptors could build around going forward. An elite shooter that can flank the slashing of Scottie Barnes and RJ Barrett. Every team needs a smart 3-point firing wing, and that's literally Grady Dick. And I know this video is about their first season, but let me tell you, starting off his second season, Grady is already shooting the lights out, averaging over 17 points in his second year. And if you like shooters, let me introduce you to...
The New Orleans Pelicans select Jordan Hawkins from the University of Connecticut.
Jordan Hawkins came into the league with something no one else in this first round can share with him. He won a collegiate national championship. Hawk served as the anchor to the well-oiled 2023 title winner, the UConn Huskies. He was the team's go-to wing scorer in a program known for producing high IQ players in its super complex, off-ball screen-heavy system. Hawk fit perfectly as a bona fide 3-point sniper who put up 16 points on 7 threes per game.
Yo, I'm a national champion, man. National champion. Nobody can take that away from me ever. Ever in my life, nobody can take that away from me.
Despite being undersized at 6'4", skinny, and 21 years old, Hawkins snuck into the lottery, the oldest pick in that range. And when his NBA career began, he flew off screens and chucked up any shot with an inch of open space. You know how they say shooters shoot? Well, Hawkins lived by those words. Dude has delusional confidence. You don't see too many rookies come into the NBA and single-handedly take over games like Hawk did. He literally dropped 31 points in his 7th game.
Near 10 on the shot clock against Dwight Powell, waiting for Jordan. Hawk should rise. Over Kyrie, he will.
The repost is great, and that's why.
Deep three.
What did I tell you earlier, Joe?
Repost.
What did I tell you earlier?
People talk about the importance of gravity as a shooter, drawing defenders to you even when you don't have the ball. Well, Hawk had that from day one, with the ability to hit crazy movement threes as his body literally faded away from the basket. He ranked 87th percentile of all players in points off screens, shooting 48% of those attempts. He looked like one of the best players in this draft class. Even the NBA rookie ladder agreed. Or ask Trey Murphy.
Shoot the ball. Like I really trust his shot. Like he shoots with the best of them, man. Like I said before, I really think we're one of the best shooting duos in the entire league.
And then the minutes disappeared. After averaging 14 points, shooting 37% in November, he was relegated to the bench with the team's core healthy. And as good as Hawk shot, other parts of his game lagged behind. Most notably, his defense as an undersized, not super athletic wing. It's hard to make sense of Hawkins' rookie year. He went from one of the best in the class to not even making an all-rookie team. But his shooting gravity is unbelievably valuable, regardless of his other deficiencies. Do I need to remind you of how much money the Heat paid Duncan Robinson? If the Pelicans end up keeping all their guards, that could hurt Hawkins' development. And with the Pelicans' offseason development so far, I could see a trade coming soon for someone. I'm looking at you, Brandon Ingram. But maybe it's Hawkins. Wherever he is, I hope Hawkins lands somewhere that they just let him do what he does best. Run around and shoot.
The Atlanta Hawks select Kobe Buffkin from the University of Michigan.
After barely playing as a rookie at Michigan, Buffkin broke out in his second year, averaging 14 points, shooting 48% from the field. He projected as a versatile guard, a skilled playmaker who could play the point, and a long defender who could slot in next to other lead guards too. He logged a 6'7" wingspan, flashed some pretty shooting mechanics, and possessed a good feel for the game on ball. That seemed like a perfect fit next to Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, a Swiss Army knife who could mold around your star players. But Buffkin's one of those draft picks who couldn't get rolling in his first season. Some of it was early season G League assignments, but really it was the injury bug. He suffered a fractured thumb and sprained toe. He logged only 17 games and just 6 total minutes before the trade deadline. But when he did play, he tore up the G League, averaging 24 points, shooting 35%, and erupted for some huge games, including this 43 ball.
Shot clock starting to wind down. Kobe from around the free throw line.
I love his versatility, and he has upside as a shooter. His form looks beautiful, and his mid-range pull-up game is already there, where he shot 50% in the NBA. He's really good off the bounce, snaking around screens, taking his time, and deciphering the defense. It's a rare skill for a guard his age, and makes you wonder about his longevity, simply as a heady lead guard who competes on defense.
Wanted the call there, you didn't get it, now just gotta buckle down and get a stop.
Buffkin, pull up, and one.
I'm really curious to see if he gets a larger role next year. And how will they use him? Will they ease him in? Will he play the 2 beside Trey with a more defensive focus? Or will he play the backup PG and run the second unit? I think that's part of what we need to find out about Buffkin. He can do a lot of stuff well, but what will be his role? And what's his niche in the NBA? That's still to be decided.
The Utah Jazz select Keontae George from Baylor University.
We don't have tons of hoopers in this draft, people who just get buckets. Keontae George is one of few. Despite being 6'4" with average athleticism, he's a hooper's hooper. After attending the powerhouse IMG Academy, George started at Baylor, where he averaged 15 points per game despite shooting less than 40% from the field. His electric scoring, 30-point scoring outings, and silky smooth jump shot were good enough to earn the Big 12 Rookie of the Year. Teams saw a potential bucket getter, just like Jordan Clarkson, so I guess it makes sense that the Jazz drafted him. Utah planned to bring him along slowly, but it didn't work out that way. By game 9, he was starting. In classic Keontae George fashion, he had blitzes of unstoppable bursts, 3 25-point games in a row, 9 threes against the Warriors, tying the record for most threes by a rookie ever. What stood out to me was his ability to score off the bounce. Step backs, mid-ranges, deep threes, you name it. Nearly 40% of his shots came on pull-ups, where he wasn't always efficient, but when it clicked, it really clicked. He ended the year averaging 13 points, 4 assists, and shooting 39% from the field, and 33% from 3. Sure, those numbers don't look stellar, but they don't take into account the load placed on him as a rookie lead guard on a tanking team. With all that being said, he's still ranked near the top of rookie stat leaders. 5th in minutes, 3rd in games played, 6th in points per game, and 2nd in assists. The areas of improvement seem pretty clear. Efficiency. He was baited into too many pull-ups at times, and he showed he can hit the tough shots, but I'd love to see him get all the way to the rim more, where he took only 1 shot per game. I think his 3-point percentage will definitely rise as he shot just 31% on catch-and-shoot attempts this year. But all in all though, this was a pretty good dang year. He did what he was supposed to do, get buckets, while also adding other nuggets to his game. For example, his college profile didn't suggest that he could develop into an NBA point guard and facilitator. Instead, he developed into one of the best passers in this draft class. That'll be key for him. As an undersized 2 guard, he might need to add more playmaking to stick around, or he'll need to prove that he can serve as a more efficient and consistent scorer.
The Los Angeles Lakers select Jalen Hood-Schifino from Indiana University.
In the midst of all of the classic Laker offseason drama, there's been one player who's rarely, if ever, discussed. Their first-round pick from 2023, Jalen Hood-Schifino. In his 1 year at Indiana, he was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year who had some major performances, including 35 points at Purdue, the most by an Indiana freshman ever. In Indiana, Hood-Schifino played like a dude from decades ago, slow and methodical, who thrived on mid-range pull-ups, manipulating the pick and roll, patiently navigating the floor, and getting to his spots. He showed flashes as a really good passer for a 6'5" player and a strong defender. Well, the Lakers saw a big, modern NBA point guard who at worst could run their second unit, but that really wasn't what the Lakers needed. They already had that in LeBron James. Plus, he was a developmental project who would only play if he improved his 3-point shot after only making 33% of his attempts at Indiana. He spent most of the year in the G League, only logging 21 NBA games, where he just never got into a rhythm. In the G League though, he was really good, averaging 22 points on 43% from 3 and 5.5 assists. But he just underwent surgery on a back injury and missed the NBA Summer League. It's unclear what it'll look like when he gets back, and it's unclear what his role will be on the Lakers team, if any.
The Miami Heat select Jaime Jaquez Jr. from UCLA.
In the Heat's first game of 2023, Eric Spoelstra drew up a play early in the 4th quarter for a rookie named Jaime Jaquez. On the first play, Jaquez caught the ball in the post, scanned the floor, and threaded a cross-court pass to hit Duncan Robinson. On the second play, Jaime Jaquez did what Jaime Jaquez does. He jabbed, dribbled, pump faked, pivoted, and hit a 5-foot hook shot. That's not something you hear every day. A championship level team running post-up plays for a rookie in his first game in a tight 4th quarter? Well, Jaime Jaquez, he's not your normal rookie.
Something that he's familiar with. He has an it quality, whatever that it is.
Let's take a few steps back. Jaquez stayed in college for 4 years, leading the UCLA Bruins to the Final Four in his sophomore season. As a senior, he averaged 18 points and 8 rebounds per game. But if you read his player profile, you'd wonder, how is this dude a modern NBA player, let alone a first-round pick? He only shot 32% from 3, he's a little slow, and he's one of the oldest players in the draft at 22 years old. But the Heat, they didn't care. After easing into the lineup, he quickly became a darling of the NBA. He went on a 2-month stretch between November and January, where he averaged 16 points and shot 51% from the field and 38% from 3. He won Rookie of the Month in back-to-back months. He dropped 31 points and 10 rebounds on the Sixers on Christmas Day, leading the Heat to victory without Jimmy Butler. It's easily a cliche at this point, but you could put Hawkes on a Mount Rushmore of Heat culture, with his physical, technical, and slow, old-school game. He scores with nifty footwork, pivots, 1, 2, 3, 4 pump fakes, grown man shoulders, and the forgotten mid-range shot. And he lived in the paint, and specifically in the no man's land outside of the restricted area, nailing 47% on short mid-range shots.
I would say watching Kobe Bryant working from the elbows, work from the post, mid-post, low post, all of that.
He wasn't scared to take anyone in the post. Watch him hit this shot on Braun.
Hawkes drives on James, spins, turns, falling away, it's good!
Actually, he told Hoops Tonight that he feels comfortable posting up bigger guys.
Especially, if you're smaller, no big guy is expecting a smaller guy to post him up.
But I think people forget how the rest of the season went. Following that 2-month stretch, he missed 6 games with a groin injury. And after that, he just never got into the same groove again. Over the next 36 games, he averaged 9 points and shot just 28% from 3. Yeah, I'm still bullish on his NBA outlook though. The thing is, Jaime Hawkes never had the perfect NBA skill set, and yet he still made it work. It makes me believe that he'll stick around in the NBA for a long time. He's not leaning on athleticism or size. He's relying on straight skills, hustle, and feel for the game, and that's not going anywhere. I just have this lingering feeling that he can become more. I feel like he could get 19 points per game, especially if he solidifies his 3-point shot. This might be the best section of the draft, because guess who went next?
The Golden State Warriors select Brandon Pojemski from Santa Clara University.
Let me start with the story. After a preseason injury, the Warriors needed to ramp Draymond back into game shape. So they organized a team scrimmage, and at one point, Draymond turned the ball over to lose the game. Then he heard yelling, quote, "We can't have a turnover for game. You cannot turn the ball over for game." And yeah, you can guess who said that. Draymond couldn't believe it. A future Hall of Famer being yelled at by a rookie? Draymond said to The Athletic, quote, "That to me said a whole lot. I was like, you know what, man, no problem. But make sure you speak up like that all the time," end quote. Most rookies don't come into the NBA talking crazy. They bide their time. They pick up Chick-fil-A for plane rides, and they soak up all the advice from vets. Well, that wasn't Pods.
He's cocky, and I love it. He's brash. He knows he's good.
Brandon Pojemski arrived in Golden State as a baby splash bro in waiting. At Santa Clara, he was an elite scorer, averaging 20 points on 48% from the field and 44% from 3. But the Warriors noticed something else. Pojemski's nearly 9 rebounds per game. And let me put that in perspective. He's only 6'4", and he led his conference in rebounding. He is fearless, unafraid to fly into the paint for boards, trash talk, or compare himself to Draymond.
Brandon has described himself as a mini Draymond. Do you think?
He said that?
Yeah.
I love it. I love that guy so much.
Pods went off for 23 points in nearly 39 minutes against the T-Wolves in his 7th game. From then on, Pods had a consistent role in the rotation. He was compared to Jordan Poole pre-draft, but he couldn't be more different. Pods did the dirty work. He studied the offense, he competed on defense, and even though he isn't the most athletic guy, he rebounded like crazy, somehow leading the team in total rebounds despite being one of the shortest players. He rarely turned the ball over, and actually had a 4-game stretch with 27 assists and 0 turnovers that broke rookie records. He took 37 charges, the 8th most ever. There's literally a 6-minute YouTube compilation of all his charges.
Shaden Sharp to put it up and out. Pojemski saves the day.
And for that, Brandon Pojemski has earned our Dog Award. Amidst the Draymond controversy, the Wiggins struggles, the constant lineup changes, it was a rookie, Brandon Pojemski, who helped glue the team together. He had a plus-minus of 264. That was the best on the Warriors by a wide margin.
Playing well on defense, communication, all that kind of things, not turning the ball over, learning how to play with Steph and Clay. When you're on the floor, just impacting winning, which I think I did with my plus-minus this year.
Despite quite the rookie year, Pojemski found his name caught in trade talks this offseason. primarily around Lauri Markkanen, but he was a deal breaker for the trade. If the Warriors want to return to championship form, they'll need Pods to take another step forward. Remember when we talked about that scoring ability from college? Well, we'll need to see if he can do that at the NBA level. To me, he might be best suited as a role player. Tough, good shooting, and poise in big moments. Without elite athleticism or size, I wonder if he'll ever make an all-star team. If not, that's still okay, because he'll be part of winning basketball teams for a long time.
The Houston Rockets select Cam Whitmore from Villanova University.
Cam Whitmore attacks the basket like it did something wrong to him.
Cutting, slam, Whitmore.
After traumatic leg injuries in high school, Whitmore emerged as a 5-star prospect out of Maryland, earning a scholarship at Villanova where he endured more ups and downs. The ups? He won Big East Freshman of the Year, averaging 12.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.4 steals. The downs? He didn't play good on a Villanova team, and he looked like a black hole, averaging just 0.7 assists. But he was still expected to go in the lottery. NBA Porter Sam Vecini literally had him as the number 3 prospect. He wrote, "If you buy into the flashes he showed at Villanova, and think he has potential to be a 25 point per game scorer, you should take him in the top 5, passing and decision making being damned." Then he slipped in the draft and slipped some more. It was a huge draft day surprise.
You don't find athletes like this all the time, and I thought he was a top 5 talent coming into this draft. So I think Houston got themselves a steal at number 20.
A number of theories floated around about why he fell, including bad interviews, question about his feel for the game, lackluster workouts, and injury history. Whatever it was, there's no doubt that Houston got a real hooper. He earned his nickname Slam Whitmore quickly. I mean, there aren't many dudes in the NBA or anywhere who are as tall as Whitmore, strong as Whitmore, and as fast as him.
Here comes Whitmore, 1-on-3, 1-on-3.
He even tried to dunk it on Braun. He literally went on an 8-game stretch where he played 20 minutes per game. You know, nothing crazy, but during those 20 minutes, he put up 18 points per game, and he did it while shooting 42% from 3. It was so much fun watching him and the men flying down the floor with the second unit. He had a great shooting profile too, with most of his shots coming at the rim or behind the 3-point arc. Still, some worry about his attention to defense and tunnel vision. To put in perspective, he tailed more turnovers than assists all season. 51% of his possessions did not end in a pass, which is worse in the league, and that's pretty crazy. But those are all things that he should improve as he adjusts to the NBA's pace and rhythm. There's a legit reason to believe that Cam Whitmore, with his scoring ability, explosiveness, and shooting, could average over 20 points per game. Just ask PG.
On both ends, he played hard on both ends. He can shoot it, he can handle, he's explosive, he was strong. He had a nastiness to him that you don't really see in a lot of super young guys.
And that's why we've awarded Cam Whitmore the highest ceiling award. Talk about a high ceiling. Let me introduce you to
The Brooklyn Nets select Noah Clowney from the University of Alabama.
Noah Clowney, one of the least talked about players in this draft class. Seems like a sleeper heading into year 2. The South Carolina native played 1 year at Alabama, where he averaged 10 points and 8 rebounds. Despite being one of the youngest prospects in the draft at 18, he looked like the textbook definition of a modern frontcourt player. A mobile, switchable big with shooting upside. He barely played this year with the Nets, but when he did, he was faster along his development than anticipated. He logged 7 games in April, albeit a small sample size, and averaged 12 points and 6 boards, while shooting 60% from the field and 47% from 3. He even had 7 blocks in the game.
How he plays defense is phenomenal. He's like another Nick out there that can play guards and get through screens.
And here's him nailing a smooth movement 3.
Leave it, Clowney, open, he buries it.
And then a few possessions later,
With numbers the other way, attacks on Thomas, bounce it inside. Oh!
How many players in the league are doing both of those things in a game? This year's Summer League only solidified the hype, where he shot 39% from 3 and averaged 1.6 blocks. He's still got a ways to go though. He needs to either put on weight to play the 5 or prove he's good enough on perimeter defense to play the 4. I mean, just watch the bonus kill him in the paint here. He also needs to prove that the 3 is real, and he needs to prove that he can attack off the bounce. But it's easy to see a world where the pairing of Clowney and Nick Claxton could turn into a scary frontcourt tandem. Clowney, the stretch 4, and Claxton, the rim running big, both long and switchable and able to defend the rim. And I want to give him a quick personal shout out. Clowney said he wants to go back to school for mental health counseling, so respect to him.
Yeah, I want to help other athletes because people don't understand from non-athlete perspectives how stressful these situations really can be. when you're going into arena, you just thinking you just want to play basketball.
The Brooklyn Nets select Dariq Whitehead from Duke University.
Before entering the NBA, Dariq Whitehead looked destined for stardom. He attended the basketball powerhouse Montverde Academy, where he shared the court with RJ Barrett, Cade Cunningham, and Scotty Barnes. He was a consensus top 3 recruit in the country, the National Player of the Year, and McDonald's All-American Game MVP. He was a projected lottery pick. Even in high school, Whitehead was as well-rounded as they come. Explosive drives, a picture-perfect jump shot, and the ability to cover multiple positions in an NBA-ready body at 6'7" and 220 pounds. I mean, how many dudes do you know that can do this in high school? He committed to Duke, and then injuries. He had a foot fracture that required surgery, and a lower leg injury that kept him out of games. He struggled to get into a rhythm, though he shot 43% from 3 and averaged 8 points. He lacked some of the burst that attracted so many NBA scouts to him in high school. He declared for the draft, but medical exams found he needed another foot surgery. He fell to 23, but Nets fans thought they had a steal, a former top recruit who at worst could be a plus shooter.
I definitely feel like I can be, first year or 2 in the league. I can definitely solidify myself as a young star in the league. I just need to get healthy, get 100%.
Then he only played 2 games, the least of anyone in the first round. Even in the G League, he didn't play 20 games. He missed time with shin splints and needed more surgery. That means he endured 3 surgeries in just 2 years. Yeah, it's not the best way to start your career. The good news, he returned to Summer League feeling the best he has felt in a long time. The bad news, he really struggled again. In 4 games, he shot 14% from the field and 8% from 3. Some fans watching the Summer League worried that his burst, which was once his calling card, has simply disappeared. But hold up, let's pump the brakes. I mean, Whitehead himself even said to hold up and wait. He's still working himself back into shape. It's way too early to make a call on Whitehead's career. While the signs haven't been great, he'll have plenty of chances to find himself and grow into his role in the Nets.
The Portland Trailblazers select Chris Murray from the University of Iowa.
Ding, 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 another draft, another twin. This time, Chris Murray comes off the board, the twin brother of Kings rising star Keegan Murray. And they look so much alike it's not even funny. Earlier this year, I was watching the Blazers. I know, one of few. And Chris came on the floor, and I was so confused. For a split second, I thought the Blazers had traded for Keegan. Chris took over the reins at Iowa after Keegan declared for the NBA draft. In his junior year, Chris developed into one of the best college players in the country, averaging 20 points and 8 rebounds. The 6'8" wing showed upside as a high IQ, competitive, versatile wing who could play multiple positions, offensively and defensively, aka a perfect role player.
I'm just proud of him. I'm proud of his brother. I mean, they put a lot of work in it. A lot of people doubted him when they signed with Iowa, but, he just kept his head down and grinded.
But the twins aren't one for one as players. Chris, for example, shoots left-handed, and Keegan shoots with the right. And while Keegan got off to a hot start in his rookie year, Chris did not. It took him 18 games to score double digits, and that's not even including DMPs. But by late February, with the Blazers deep in a tank and reeling from injuries, Murray found himself as a starter. And over the last 28 games of the season, Murray started every game, averaging 9 points, 6 boards across 30 minutes per game. But here's the thing. The Blazers selected Murray to anchor them as a 3-and-D guy. The defense was there, especially for a rookie. He showed the size and quickness to keep up with some better wings, such as Kawhi Leonard, Michael Porter Jr., and Jalen Green. But the shooting, though it, never popped off. He only hit 27% of threes this year and 26% in Summer League. Most of those in-season threes came on wide open shots too. It's hard to imagine a role in the NBA for Murray if he struggles to shoot. And the thing is, he's already 24 years old. He doesn't have a ton of time to prove himself, especially on a team full of wings. But if he can hit shots though, that could change. If not, maybe the Blazers can trade him to the Kings so we can see the twins play together.
The Sacramento Kings select Olivier Maxence Prosper.
After 3 years in college, Olivier Maxence Prosper wasn't a first-round pick. That is, until the Combine. The former Marquette standout shot up big boards during the pre-draft process, dropping 21 points in a Combine scrimmage and ranking at the top of almost every athletic test, including a 40.5-inch vertical, the highest of any first-round pick. His rise was such a surprise that he didn't get a green room invite until the last minute. But the Kings saw better elsewhere, so they traded him to the Mavs for Richaun Holmes and cash. For the Mavs, it was a pure upside play. A dude who can jump like that, why not take a flyer? He was projected as a high-energy spark plug, who flashed real upside as a switchable defender at 6'7" with a 7'1" wingspan. He didn't play a ton for the Mavs in year 1, but that wasn't a surprise given the team's depth and championship aspirations. Even when he did play, he showed high motor skills and effort that made him appealing in the first place. He's still got some strides to get up to NBA speed as a defender, but it's not hard to see the ceiling with his traits. The bigger issue? The 3 just isn't there yet. Prosper shot just 29% from 3 on mostly wide open attempts over 40 games, albeit in minimal minutes. I will say, he shot much better at the G League level, where he averaged 18 points and shot 42% on 5 attempts per game. But I don't know. Even in the few Mavs game I watched, I just couldn't get excited about his offensive ceiling. It's not anything that shows up in the stat sheet. His footwork just seemed a little unrefined. And sometimes when he would drive, it just seemed like he was going up with reckless abandon. Which, while it looks good on highlights, it could cause serious injuries if he comes down wrong one day. After losing Derrick Jones, there's an open spot for the team to find a defensive stopper. The offense will be there for the Mavs, but their defense? That's a whole different story. Prosper could play that defense and hustle role, only if the shooting comes too.
Memphis Grizzlies select Marcus Sasser from the University of Houston.
Now, this pick was a bit of a surprise to me. An undersized 6'1" 2 guard and a 4-year college player seemed to contradict with the Pistons' goals. And I'm just gonna keep it simple. Marcus got to the Pistons through 2 trades before stepping on an NBA court. For starters, they already had a whole host of guards and they were in the middle of tanking. A 22-year-old guard didn't really fit what they needed. Regardless of his age or size, Marcus Sasser does 2 things that the NBA loves. He shoots and he plays defense. At Houston, he made about 38% on 7 threes per game, an average 1.6 steals. With his 6'7" wingspan, he anchored one of the best defensive teams in college basketball. Pistons head coach Monty Williams told NBA.com, quote, "He's as tough as an old wallet. I don't care what he looks like, that kid is not somebody you want to tangle with. You better pack a sack lunch, Sass will not quit," end quote. When he reached the NBA, Sasser took off. He dropped 19 or more points 3 times in his first 10 games. He showed a legit ability to score off the bounce and create his own shot, from 3, from mid-range, and off of his go-to snatchback. That definitely got some ankles this year.
Cross courts to Sasser, the clock's at 10. Fall away, fills it up.
But the shooting wasn't there consistently. He went through stretches where he was scoring hot, and then stretches where he couldn't seem to shoot. Before the All-Star break, he hit about 42% from 3. After the All-Star break, that number plummeted to 32%, albeit on higher volume and more minutes. And that seems to be the challenge with Sasser, with his size, age, and limits as a point guard. If he can't hit threes consistently at a high clip, he doesn't have a role in the NBA, point blank. With that said, he could carve out a role as a high volume shooter who competes on defense at all points of the game, kind of like a Terry Rozier. I've now come to realize that the ideal version of Sasser is actually the perfect piece for the Pistons. He can create his own shot and guard the other team's point guard, taking pressure off of Cade. He might not start, but he could establish himself as a microwave 6th man as the Pistons begin to build.
The Indiana Pacers select Ben Shepherd from Belmont University.
1 year before Ben Shepherd played in the conference finals, few people expected him to go in the first round. At Belmont, he scored 19 points per game on 41.5% from 3 as a senior, earning first team all-conference and all-defense in the Missouri Valley Conference. But after 4 years in college and middling athletic traits, Shepherd wasn't seen as a first-round prospect. NBADraft.net compared him to Garrett Temple, and I can't think of a more player. But that changed during the pre-draft process, where he shined in scrimmages at the Combine, averaging 17 points and fitting exactly what the NBA prioritizes, a high IQ wing who can shoot. And the Pacers, well, just couldn't keep Ben Shepherd off the floor. It wasn't because Shepherd lit up the stat sheet. He didn't score double digits until his 33rd outing. He made just 31% of his threes, supposedly his calling card. Instead, he did it with solid defense, smart cuts, and simply good decisions. A former high school point guard, the ball never seemed to stick in his hands. Shepherd literally had one of the lowest times of possession among rookies at 1.56 seconds per touch. For context, Keontae George led rookies with over 5 seconds per touch. Shepherd didn't even average 1 dribble per touch. That's crazy.
Expected of me. I'm not the type of guy to go isolation or do anything out of the ordinary, but I know my role, and I think that's a good thing.
We're getting into the weeds here, but I love his footwork. He doesn't waste a single step. He reminds me of Josh Green. Gritty, quick, and plays defense. He's not the best shooter on the floor, but you have to respect his shot. He did so much of the intangibles that teammates literally had to bully him into taking more shots.
Early in the year, there was a lot of games where he wouldn't even look at the basket, and I think we've kind of bullied him into looking at the hoop, which is...
While many rookies struggled to adjust to playoff pace, Shepherd fit right in. After the Pacers traded away Buddy Hield, Shepherd played 20 minutes per night in the playoffs and shot 38% from 3, making 19 total, the most of any rookie in the playoffs. We'll see if he has another gear to hit moving forward. He might just be what he is now, a really solid and reliable 8th man. Nothing more, nothing less.
3-and-D role is something that I want to get to. See those guys, I don't know, Mikal Bridges, the Martin twins, people like them.
But if Shepherd is not flashy, well, the next pick, he's the exact opposite.
The Charlotte Hornets select Nick Smith Jr. from the University of Arkansas.
Coming into his freshman year at Arkansas, it seemed unlikely that we'd wait this long to hear Nick Smith's name. After being crowned as the #1 high school recruit, he enrolled at Arkansas, where he was profiled as a natural scorer. Compared to Jamal Murray and Jamal Crawford, he was able to create his own shot on all 3 levels, beat guys with his first step, and get to his spots. Floaters, NBA range 3s, pick and roll navigation. Nick Smith had a lot in his bag, but he dealt with a nagging knee injury and inconsistent play at Arkansas. He appeared in only 17 games, averaging 12 points, shooting just 38% from the field and 33% from 3. He fell all the way to the Hornets at 27. Fans were psyched. He found a consistent role by mid-December, and over a 28-game stretch, he averaged 18 minutes, 7 points, and shot 40% from the field and 42% from 3. Across 51 games, he was the best shooter in his rookie class. He made 43% on nearly 3 attempts per game, which is the top 3-point percentage among rookies who took more than 1 attempt per game. He also showed some wiggle as a ball handler and the ability to create his own shot. The issue is, he just made 38% of his attempts at the rim, one of the worst rates for guards in the league. Despite being a skinny 6'2", he hasn't flashed a ton of potential as a passer, averaging only 1 assist on the year. And defensively, well, he's got a ways to go. He ranks second to last in defensive estimated plus minus, which is last in the entire NBA. But if you can make 40% from 3, you'll stick around. Add some shot creation on top, you'll earn some real money. And he's only 19 years old. If he expands his game, he could be better than even we predicted.
The Utah Jazz select Bryce Sensabaugh from The Ohio State University.
Remember Grady Dick and Jordan Hawkins? Bryce Sensabaugh is of that same ilk, a 3-point shooter first and foremost. In just 1 year at Ohio State, he averaged 16 points and shot 40.5% from 3 on just 24 minutes per game. But he fell in the draft because of concerns over his knees after 2 meniscus injuries in high school and knee surgery in March 2023, which was right before the draft. He spent most of his rookie year in the G League, and only joined the Jazz after the All-Star break when the team turned to full-out tanking. Over the last 2 months, he averaged 22 minutes and 9 points per game, but he struggled to shoot, making just 30% from 3. During the final 8 games, he really broke out, putting up over 13 points per game and shooting 43% from 3 on 5 attempts. He even dropped back-to-back 20-point games.
I made a little adjustment, nothing too crazy, while I was in my little drought. And, I started to hit shots last 4 or 5 games. So
he also flashed some encouraging ball handling signs, nailing 51% of his mid-range shots when he took 3 to 6 dribbles. It gives me hope that he could do more than simply catch and shoot. Some of this has to do with his big frame. At 6'5", 235 pounds, giving him the strength to get to his spots. Unfortunately, he tore a tendon in his middle finger, forcing him to miss part of the summer league. And that's a bummer because he was slated to get real minutes for the Jazz this year. Hopefully he'll be back soon, because he has a chance to grow into himself on a team very short on guards. The shooting will come, and the signs are there. He's only 20 years old, and he just needs some time to get rolling, and the Jazz might have the room to provide that.
The Indiana Pacers select Julian Strawther from Gonzaga University.
Julian Strawther came to the Nuggets after 3 years at Gonzaga. Yes, to the Nuggets. He was part of a 4-team trade that I'm not really sure helped any other team other than the Nuggets, where he averaged 15 points in his junior year, shooting 40% on 3. You may have seen him leading the Zags to the Elite 8, where he hit this crazy shot.
Chances are you'll get more than one opportunity. Strawther for the lead.
I love this pick. The Nuggets drafted for need and not necessarily talent, similar to the Derek Lively pick. And in rare late first-round pick fashion, Strawther was ready to play for a championship contender. In his 6th game, he dropped 21 points in 19 minutes. He struggled to shoot consistently, but he'd have some games where he just would pop off. He had 22 points and 5 steals against Atlanta in December. When he got hot, he hit plenty of shots, off screens, deep behind the three-point line, and give and go with Jokic. He's been one of ESPN analyst Zach Lowe's favorite under-the-radar talking points on his podcast. And it's not just the shooting, it's Strawther's activity on defense.
He can shoot the hell out of it. We know that. Everyone who can shoot around Jokic is going to be great. That dude is making plays on defense, like verticality at the rim, closeouts, strips. Like, if he's a defensive playmaker.
Unfortunately, he suffered a knee injury in early January. Though he would return a month later, the minutes he once saw disappeared, playing in only 15 games after the All-Star break. Yet, Nuggets fans are still excited about the flashes they saw from Strawther, and even more excited after he averaged 28.5 points per game on 41% from 3 in the Summer League. After losing KCP, this Nuggets team needs depth, and as of right now, Strawther looks penciled in to be a solid part of the bench unit. I mean, shoot, he could even rise to 6th man, maybe even starter if Christian Brown doesn't hit. They'll be looking for players who can spread the floor for Jokic, and that could very well be Julian Strawther.
The LA Clippers select Kobe Brown from the University of Missouri.
There isn't a player in this draft with the size of Kobe Brown, who can move like Kobe Brown, dribble like Kobe Brown, and pass like Kobe Brown. A 6'7", 250-pound forward who can dance like this?
Brown with the crossover.
Oh, wow.
And the lefty finish.
For real, Kobe Brown has an interesting skill set. He's a former high school point guard who put up 24 points, 12 boards, and 8 assists per game as a senior in Huntsville, Alabama. Wow. He spent most of his time at Mizzou playing forward. In his senior year, he embraced more ball handling duties and raised his three-point percentage to 45.5%, one of the best rates in the college. And that was a huge deal because he shot 25% or less from 3 during his first 3 years. That senior year jump saw him move up draft boards and sneak just barely into the first round. In his first year, Brown found a regular role on the Clippers for stretches, but never really got in a rhythm. His three-point shot plummeted to 29% again, even though nearly 50% of his shots were considered wide open. That's the make or break for Brown. He's a decent defender, and he's got some real chops as a potential power forward. I mean, just check out this triple-double he dropped in the G League last year. 19 points, 13 boards, and 10 assists. Wait, and then he had a second triple-double.
And now Brown has it. Euro step, kicks it back out to Jovanovic. He hit a 3 a moment ago, hit another one.
But will that three-point shot ever come? If it does, I think he can stick in the NBA. But if it doesn't, he might be like a David Roddy 2.0. A few things jumped out to me about this first round. Experts projected it as a top-heavy draft with Wemby, Scoot, and Miller. But you could argue the most impactful players in year 1 actually fell later into the night. That's part of the reason the depth jumped out to me. Wallace went 10, Lively went 11, Jaquez went 18, Pods went 19, Ben Shepherd went 26. All of those players held major roles on winning teams as rookies. They're not players who popped off your screen, and they fit into the team's system and thrived on the dirty work. I can't repeat that enough. Rebounds, cutting, not letting the ball stick in their hands, they lived in the little corners of the game. Some teams should think more often about how draftees integrate into their roster, rather than selecting merely on ceiling. But it didn't end in the first round. The second round had some legit hoopers in year 1, and some former stars you might have forgotten about. Gigi Jackson straight up balled out after literally the entire Grizzlies team got injured. After barely playing to start the year, Jackson became one of the team's go-to scorers, if not the go-to scorer during the second half of the year. In his final 18 games, he averaged 20 points. I mean, just look at this man smile.
You played a hell of a game, and if people didn't know who you were, they know who you are now. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations on being ready, brother.
He even dropped 44 against the Nuggets in his last game of the season, the most by a rookie all year.
You know, we wanted to come out and try to get the win, but, like Denzel Washington said, I'm leaving it with something. So, I'll take it.
But how did a man dropping 44 points in the NBA fall so far? After becoming the highest recruit to ever commit to South Carolina, the excitement was short-lived. The Gamecocks went 11-21. For as often as he could hit fadeaways or contested pull-ups, he got labeled as a black hole. He shot just 48% from the field, averaged just 0.8 assists, and 2.7 turnovers. People questioned his maturity. At one point, he even ranted on Instagram Live about his role in coaches.
Can you help me answer that question, Chris, bro? Why don't I have the ball in my hands when it's crunch time, bro?
But it's not every day you can find a former top-ranked prospect at 6'8" who can move, score, and dribble like Gigi, just sitting there in the second round. Oh, and he was the youngest player in the draft at 18 years old. We already talked about how good Gigi was down the stretch last year. He proved he could shoot at the NBA level, hitting crazy contested pull-up jumpers on a regular basis. But I was really impressed by his ability to get downhill, averaging 0.7 drives per game, 9th among rookies, and ranking top 5 in the NBA in foul rate on those drives, according to B-Ball Index. Most 6'8" dudes can't move like Gigi can.
Yeah, there's not. Now I'm arguing with you because why are you calling it now? Oh, Gigi going through.
But here's the issue. He did it on a team decimated by injuries with few other options to score. Plus, some of the concerns from South Carolina still lingered. He averaged only 1 assist and had nights where he kept forcing shots. Unfortunately, he recently got surgery on his right foot, which will keep him out through December. We'll see how he integrates into the Grizzlies when he returns. Can he adapt to being a lower usage role player? I think he has the tools to do it, as a good movement shooter who can attack closeouts and score. But it'll definitely take some time for him to adjust. One thing's for sure, he's one of the funnier players in the NBA that I didn't even know about.
Other than him hitting fadeaways and f***ing us up, not really.
And speaking of former hyped up prospects who are finding their way in the NBA, I have another player for you.
The Cleveland Cavaliers select Imani Bates from Eastern Michigan University.
5 years ago, there seemed no way that we'd be talking about Imani Bates in the second round. He was, to put it slightly, a phenom. He averaged 46 points in 7th grade. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 15 years old. He won the National Player of the Year at 16 years old, the first sophomore ever. They called him one of the best high schoolers since LeBron James.
It was hard at first because I was so young. So it was like I had to get used to everybody, like I'm going out, people coming up to me, asking for pictures.
Then the issues quickly snowpiled. Bates ended up going to Memphis, where he joined a star-studded team featuring Jalen Duren. But he struggled with efficiency, passing, maturity questions, and the college adjustment to point guard. After a disappointing season, he transferred to Eastern Michigan in his hometown of Ypsilanti. Months later, he was arrested on a felony gun charge, though the charges were eventually dismissed. At Eastern Michigan, he showed us that he could still light up a scoreboard on any given moment, hitting shots that normal 18-year-olds can't do. Take his first game where he played against Michigan. He dropped 30 points.
Imani Bates, he's taking shots from within the offense. Now this is a heat check right here.
It was enough to put him back in the NBA draft conversations, though teams questioned his ability to create his own shot at the highest level. In his first year with the Cavs, he barely played in the NBA, only logging 15 games. He spent most of the year in the G League, where he averaged 21 points and shot 37% from 3 on 10 attempts per game. The plan seems clear. Just give Imani time to grow. Dating back to his sophomore year of high school, he's played on 5 teams in 5 years. He dealt with insurmountable attention and pressure that could crush anyone, let alone a 15-year-old. It seems smart for a win-now team to stash him, get him away from the limelight in the G League, and hone his role. But if you can shoot like Imani can shoot, I think teams will find him a spot.
The Oklahoma City Thunder select Keontae Johnson from Kansas State University.
2 years ago, Keontae Johnson caught an alley-oop and dunked. A timeout was called, then Johnson walked to half court and just fell. Johnson spent days in a coma before he woke up without any memory of the fall. He later learned that he suffered from a heart condition called athlete's heart, an increase in cardiac mass because of systemic training, according to The Athletic. After he woke up, a doctor told him that his basketball career was over. Because of the injury, he could receive $5 million from an insurance policy. But that meant he could never play in college or the NBA. Well, he declined. He believed that he could make the NBA. And after being cleared by a doctor, he transferred to Kansas State.
I'm feeling good. Just thanking God every day for giving me the opportunity to get here, to play again, just staying patient. And the feeling before the game, I was a little emotional.
The former All-SEC wing picked up where he left off. He played 34 minutes per game for K-State, the most of his collegiate career, and he averaged 17 points and shot 40% from 3. Athletic, strong, fast with a smoother release, and a 7-foot wingspan? Count me in. And Johnson looked legit. More importantly though, he was healthy.
Jerome Tang sets it up, going for the line! Keontae Johnson on the receiving end!
By this point, he was no longer a lottery pick. He was 23 years old with a red flag medical injury. But the Thunder felt comfortable taking Johnson at 50th overall.
I feel like that made me a different man today. I feel like that was a good thing that could happen. I see life differently, my perspective on life, and just the game of basketball.
After mostly playing in the G League this year, he recently signed with the Charlotte Hornets, where you have to think he'll have a chance to make it. Strong, athletic 3-point shooting wings don't grow on trees. and especially one who's dealt with the adversity Keyontae Johnson had to endure.
The Phoenix Suns select Toumani Camara from University of Dayton.
What if I told you that the 3-team Damian Lillard trade almost didn't go through? It wasn't because of DeAndre Ayton. It was because of a little-known second-round pick from Belgium, who had yet to play an NBA game, Toumani Camara. Yeah, that's right. The Suns loved him so much that they almost didn't do the trade. And the Blazers loved him so much that they wouldn't do it without him. Before all of that, Camara played at Dayton, where he put up 14 points and 9 boards per game as a senior, and flashed legit NBA switchability as a defender. Most importantly, he raised his 3-point percentage from 17% as a freshman to 36% as a senior. And you guessed it, that made him the perfect 3-and-D guy. And from day one with the Blazers, his on-ball defense was legit. Even elite offensive players struggle to get by him with his length, his burst after he gets beat, and how nimble he moves for a 6'8" dude. As a rookie, he often found himself matched up with the other team's best player. He took the toughest defensive assignments among rookies, according to B-Ball Index. Look at his matchups on NBA.com, and it reads like an all-star list. He even locked up Steph in 3 matchups, holding him to 4 of 14 from the field. The Blazers also snapped Curry's streak of 268 games in a row with the 3, and it was Camara who led the way. Want a better idea of his defensive talent? Watch this possession.
Covered by Sasser. 5-point lead for Detroit. Sasser. The handoff reject.
And then seconds later.
Off to Toumani, has a lane to the glass, laid it in.
Most importantly, he competed. He ranked 7th among wings in offensive rebounding percentage. He was never afraid to take a charge. Here's how Blazers fans describe him: a future fringe all-star, the steal of the draft, a dog. He still needs to prove the jump shot is real, which, let me say, looks smooth, but with the defensive potential he showed, I don't know if he needs much more offensive juice other than a jumper. I mean, he's that good defensively, and that's why I'm gonna give him the Defensive Player of the Year award. For much of the season, the Warriors just couldn't get in a groove. It seemed like every game, they tried to tinker with the starting lineup. I mean, they sent Klay Thompson to the bench, they started Jonathan Kuminga, and they benched Jonathan Kuminga. Then, 72 games into the season, they finally found a lineup that stuck. Their starting center? Yeah, a non-shooting second-round pick rookie from Indiana University, Trayce Jackson-Davis. He spent 4 years at Indiana, where he had a fearsome back-to-the-basket game, feathery touch around the rim, sneaky passing vision, and arguably was the best rim protector in the NCAA. He averaged 21 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks, even dropping a triple-double against Nebraska. But an NBA prospect? No way. He was a 23-year-old 6'8" center who couldn't shoot and mostly played in the post. But the Warriors saw a smart, mobile, hard-playing, fiery center with a 7'1" wingspan, who knew how to set screens, create space for their scorers, and erase shots on the defensive end. Jackson-Davis played his best basketball down the stretch as the Warriors clawed to escape the play-in. In his final 19 games, he averaged 11 points per game, 7 rebounds while shooting 70% from the field, and the Warriors went 13-7. We talk about Derek Lively doing nothing but dunking. Well, Trayce Jackson-Davis was that, but on steroids. Literally, 98.8% of his shots came around the rim, according to the NBA University. He only shot 4 shots. 4 outside of essentially the restricted area. He was a brick wall on screens before sprinting to the hoop and finding little crevices to catch the ball. His 70% field goal percentage ranked 4th best in the entire league. His 324 points in the paint led the Warriors. He ranked 18th in the NBA and 1st among rookies with 100 dunks, despite not getting consistent minutes early on.
One more bucket or one more stop. Trayce Jackson-Davis, oh!
People talk about gravity as a shooter, but it's true for elite lob threats too. Even though Jackson-Davis couldn't shoot, and often shared the court with non-shooters like Draymond and Kuminga, his precise cuts and thunderous dunks still opened up space. He thrived in a pretty condensed role this year. What if he literally adds anything? How much could that open up his game? So I'm gonna be honest, after spending all this time doing research, studying, and watching these players, I've come to a conclusion. The 2023 draft class lacks some of the star power of the past drafts. I don't know how many all-stars we'll see out of this group. I can confidently say 2 at this point, Wemby and Brandon Miller. But I think it's interesting how teams have put more value in role players. Even as scoring in the NBA has reached an all-time high, we've seen that across the board, the teams who have invested all of their chips into megastars have struggled in recent years. Instead, the championship teams have prioritized high-level role players like Drew Holiday and Aaron Gordon. Well, that's true in this draft too. Teams aren't taking the 20-point per game scorer from college in the lottery. They're not drafting the guys who might be the most skilled offensive players. Instead, they're drafting players in the top 10 who project as 3-and-D menaces like Taylor Hendricks. They're drafting high IQ guys like Ben Shepherd. They're drafting dog defenders like Cason Wallace. And they're drafting players who fit with their team like Derek Lively. I'm not arguing that scoring's gone, because obviously we know that's not true. Just ask Cam Whitmore. I just think it's interesting that the most successful players this year, like Jaime Jaquez and Brandon Podziemski, don't have all-world potential. They're just really good selfless players who know their role.